Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, today I'm with something that's both a sensible family car and also an old-fashioned sports estate in equal measure. It's this 2005 MG ZTT, and it's a very rare car. In fact, with this V6 engine, there are only 114 left in the UK. Now I know what you're thinking, this is just a Rover 75 that's been to Halfords with a credit card and no adult supervision. But you'd be wrong. It's a whole lot better than that. The MG ZT was produced by MG Rover from 2001 until 2005. It was available as both the saloon and the estate. Now the estate version was known as the ZTT. I'm guessing the T stands for touring. Now it was based on the Rover 75, which is the car that your granddad owned. And I don't really like the 75, I've mentioned this in loads of videos, but this MG is a whole lot better. What I like about the ZT, and the ZTT in particular, is yes, it was based on the Rover 75, but you'd never know. It feels like it's got real attitude. You've got sharper bumpers, angry headlights, deeper skirts, twin exhausts, and this one's even got those 11-spoke wheels, which I think, when finished in grey, look awesome. I like the aggressive mesh grille. Unlike its sensible brother, the 75, this one's de-chromed, and it really suits it. I just think this car's got real presence. You know, it's unmistakably British. It's not trying to be German or Japanese. They're very keen to remind you that it's British, with the Union flag. I've been driving this now all day, with its faulty air conditioning, and it gets some serious attention. People are keen to let you out of junctions. I think it's just way more interesting than the equivalent 3 Series or Audi A4. What's good about the TT is the added practicality you've got. So you get a really large boot, and I quite like the fact that you get a split tailgate. So you press this little button here, and you can open the top part, in which you can load your groceries without them rolling all over the place. Handy if you live in San Francisco. Or you can open the whole boot. With the rear seats up, you get 400 litres of space, which is quite accommodating. You even get a full-size spare, which is something you don't get these days. But with the rear seats folded flat, this space increases to 1,222 litres. Plenty of space to transport both your grandfather clock and your Labrador. Whilst we're at the back, I should probably say that design-wise, this is probably the weakest point. There's not an awful lot to say about it, really. You get the lights from a Rover 75, or the equivalent MG ZT. It's alright, it's inoffensive. I know it might not be the easiest thing to design a pretty estate car, but other people have done it. I mean, look at the Jag XF shooting brake, or the Mercedes CLS shooting brake. They're genuinely beautiful cars. This is alright. I do quite like the full-size plate, though. Moving inside then, the sporty theme continues. Now the ordinary Rover 75, let's be honest, is a car that Ken Barlow would drive, but this feels a whole lot sportier. It's also quite good quality. You get genuinely nice leather, it feels quite expensive. Bear in mind this is 2 decades old with 120,000 miles on the clock, and it was built in the Midlands by people who are probably disinterested. It doesn't squeak or rattle or creak. It feels quite well put together. There are some parts that feel a little bit cheap, I'll be honest, but most of the things that you touch and press, do feel quite good quality. There are some things that are a little bit questionable though, so take a look at the glove box, which kind of looks like the same glove box you get on a Freelander 1, which isn't a compliment by the way. It's got these cup holders in it, which they're kind of negative cup holders. They're almost inverted. Somebody in the Midlands has fitted them upside down, I think. The glove box itself does feel a bit cheap as well. But overall, for a car like this, I've been pleasantly surprised with it. It's also got a very over-the-top cup holder, which is something I can appreciate. Take a look at this. You impressed? It's quite well appointed. The steering wheel feels nice. It's wrapped in nice leather, as is the old-fashioned manual handbrake. They were available as an automatic and a manual. This one's an auto. And, well, I'll explain how it drives later when we get it on the road. But there's plenty of space, there's plenty of headroom, plenty of legroom, plenty of elbow room. It is quite a nice car to do plenty of miles in. And despite the fact the interior is all black, it doesn't feel too dark or dingy. I guess it's thanks to all the clear glass and the sunroof. But it's quite a nice, bright, airy cabin. I've got no complaints there at all. This car was designed with families in mind, so let's look at the rear space. In the back, there's not much to talk about, really. It's almost featureless. What I will say though is there's plenty of space. I've got plenty of legroom, plenty of headroom. I don't feel claustrophobic, it's nice and bright. There's a distinct lack of cup holders in the back though. I would expect some to pop out here like a Saab, but it doesn't have any. Or have some built into the armrests, but once again, there aren't any. The armrest itself does feel quite cheap. It also even squeaks a lot. It's almost like somebody's covered a clipboard in sponge and leather and just thought, that'll do. I think it would have benefited from a couple of cup holders and a 12-volt socket, but they obviously decided against that. Anyway, enough talking. Should we get this on the road? Okay then, driving the ZTT. Now, I'll be honest with you, I am a bit biased, or I was at least, because the Rover 75 is a car that I just love to hate. I've mentioned them in loads of videos, I've done loads of videos with them, and I always love to rip them to bits. That's because they just weren't very good, in my opinion. But the ZTT, I'll be honest, has made me eat my words. It's not a bad car, this. And I think for £2,000 or £3,000, if you're in the market for a sporty family estate car, then you should definitely consider one. It reminds me a lot of Saab. It's that kind of brand. Yes, you could have an Audi A4, a van, or a C-Class estate, or a 3 Series Touring, but with the MG ZTT, you will stand out from the crowd. If that's what you want, of course. That isn't for everyone. I do wish the air conditioning worked, though. It's 29.5 degrees today, and it's just blowing warm air. It's not ideal, but we'll soldier on. The MG doesn't feel as sporty as a 3 Series, but that isn't such a bad thing. The 3 Series from this era was quite hard, especially in M-Sport trim. This, on the other hand, is a little softer. It's a bit nicer to use on a daily basis. In terms of engines available, there was a 1.8 litre K-Series petrol. That's a 4-cylinder petrol, naturally aspirated. They're prone to blowing their head gaskets, but by the time they're this age, I guarantee the head gasket will have been replaced. They all blew at 20,000 miles or something, so I guarantee that if you get one at 20 years old, it will have had a new head gasket. They also offered a 1.8 turbo, which, as you guessed it, is the same old K-Series engine, only with a turbocharger for added power. The engine in this is probably the pick of the bunch. It's a 2.5 litre V6, known as the KV6. It produces 180 brake horsepower, which, alright, won't win any games of top trumps, but it does a reasonable job. On the plus side, it's a particularly smooth engine, and it sounds really good, especially when you get to 6,000 RPM. It isn't the most economical though. Around town you'll do 18 or 19 miles per gallon. On a steady motorway run you'll hit high 20s, so it won't win any awards from Greenpeace. Still, I think it's the best all-rounder, and it's certainly the most reliable. They also offered this with the Ford 4.6 litre V8, which are very rare. I don't think I've ever seen one, actually. Most people here in Europe opted for the 2 litre turbo diesel. Now, that was an old BMW unit, and it was very reliable and quite economical. It was a 4-cylinder CDTI, and there were 2 different versions of that. One with about 115 horsepower, and one with about 130. And they are quite reliable, but they're a little bit gruff and coarse. As soon as we get on a clear stretch of road, I'll really open this up just so you can hear it, but it sounds really good. I do love a V6 though, just something about them. Nice and balanced. The 2.5 V6 ZTT has a top speed of 132 miles an hour and quite a leisurely 0 to 62 time of 9 seconds. So it never feels particularly quick, but you wouldn't describe it as slow either. Like I say, a good all-rounder, a good compromise. Right, let's try this then, shall we? Sounds good. It makes a lovely noise, it just doesn't really do an awful lot. Let me try that again. Are you ready? We'll kick down the old automatic. When it gets to 5,000 RPM, the note changes. I've just ruined the fuel consumption though. Now, because these cars are quite rare, that might put you off. You might think that parts are scarce and there'll be few people willing to work on them. That isn't really the case. There are lots of owners clubs and forums and group chats, so you're never short of somebody who knows their way around an MG ZT. It does ride very nicely though. It's not too firm or stiff. It's almost exactly how I would tune a car like this, to be honest. It's not overly firm. I know I haven't driven this around a track or anything, but it does seem to handle quite well. It feels quite agile. The steering feels quite sharp. Before we continue with the MG review, I just need to say a big thank you to today's video sponsor, Car Vertical. Before you hand over any cash for a used car or motorbike, it's really important that you check out its history, because you just don't know what it might be hiding. There are so many dodgy cars out there, I'd hate for you to end up buying one, so you must do a thorough vehicle history check. And with Car Vertical, it couldn't be easier. All you do is go to carvertical.com, and don't worry, I'll leave the link below in the video description, and type in the reg or the VIN. So as you can see with this one, we type in the reg, R12JDR, and then check vehicle. And what this does, it checks database in 35 different countries. So it'll tell us if it's ever been stolen, written off, had a mileage rollback, or has outstanding finance on it. But it's better than that, because in addition to that, it shows you all the MOT history, the ownership changes, the reg plate changes, the spec, the average market value, and a whole lot more. And because it isn't just a UK thing, if this car happened to have a bump in Belgium, or a crash in Croatia, this will tell us. Sometimes it even shows you photographs of the recorded damage. I've had it many times as well, where it shows you photographs from the last time the car was advertised, which is quite handy because you can compare the condition of the car from 5 years ago right up to the modern day. It doesn't take long to generate the report, and it isn't expensive either, and it's cheaper still if you use my promo code HIGHPEAK. That's HIGHPEAK, all one word, HIGHPEAK, and you'll save yourself 20% off each and every check that you do. It really is as simple as that. And I can't stress this enough, but don't hand over any of your hard-earned money without doing a thorough vehicle history check first. So thanks Car Vertical for sponsoring today's video. Right, back to the MG. This particular model is an SE Sport, so it does come with some nice features. So for example, I've got a sunroof, I've got cruise control, I've got climate control, although the air conditioning doesn't work, it's still there. I've got the buttons for the air conditioning. I've got heated seats, 4 electric windows, electric mirrors. It would be a very easy car to live with on a daily basis. I quite like the analogue clock, and I quite like the gauges. They're a bit sportier than the ones you'd find in a 75. Overall, and this car's forced me to eat some humble pie. You get a nice comfortable centre armrest with storage. You get more storage in the door pockets. This feels a bit cheap though. They've used kind of like Alcantara, but I don't think it really is. It's almost like this suede material, but the backing's peeled off and now feels like I'm in a tent. Apart from that though, everything's held up quite well. Kick down again, shall we? Now the gearbox isn't the quickest to respond, as you've probably seen, but it's alright. It's a lazy old-fashioned type with a torque converter, but it's very smooth. The changes, although they're not quick, are smooth. The whole car's very smooth, to be honest. You know what this reminds me of? A Jaguar X-Type V6 Estate. And I love those. I think, to be honest, I'd rather have one of those. But they rust terribly. And I don't think the MG ZT does. I'm sitting here now in heavy traffic, and you just wouldn't know the engine's on at all. It's really surprised me just how smooth it is. I wish it was a bit quicker though. I wish they'd done a version with maybe 230 horsepower. That would have felt a bit more like it. You know, if they'd given this maybe a 3-litre V6, not a 2.5. It does ride nicely though, and I much prefer these seats than the ones you'd get in a 75. They're much more supportive. They grip you at the sides. They must give you a bear hug. It's nice though. Quite like it. You also get a Harman Kardon surround system, which sounds lovely, and you get xenon lights. At night, the gauge cluster's backlit with these nice icy blue lights, which I like, but it doesn't work well with the orange. And then also, if you press this screen here, you get this little trip computer display at the top, and that's another colour again. Those 3 colours just don't go together. Now in terms of reliability, I've never had much luck with 75s. I've never had a ZT though, so I can't really comment. What I do know is the KV6 is quite a reliable motor, as is the gearbox. The only issues that you might encounter are silly electrical gremlins. Things like water leaks damaging the body control module, but having said that, that isn't an issue that's unique to this car. I've had that with loads of different things. So although the 75 is an easy car for me to mock, the MG ZT, it doesn't even feel like the same car, to be honest. In fact, if you were to blindfold me, or in fact it might be safer just to cover up the badge, mightn't it? I would swear that I was in a German car. I'm a bit annoyed actually, because I wanted to rip this car to bits. I wanted to slate it like I often do with 75s, but I can't really. Let's try and get this thing to scream then. 5,000 RPM, 6,000 RPM, 7,000 RPM, is it going to change? There we go. I almost felt sorry for it then, but it did sound good, didn't it? What I noticed then was my sound increased, but my speed didn't. So I don't think we've got an accelerator pedal. I think what we've got is a volume pedal. Let's try that again. Foot to the floor, we've kicked down. It does sound good, this. Don't know if I've mentioned that already. Another thing to compliment it on is the visibility and the driving position. You can see everything quite clearly. I almost have to apologise here, don't I? Because it's quite a nice car, this. I quite like it. If you're thinking about buying one of these, your best bet is to find yourself a good one that's been owned by an enthusiast. That way all of the common issues should have been ironed out. Then something else I'd suggest you do is find a good specialist to look after it. Yes, it might be a bit more costly to run than a 320, but it's certainly more interesting. And that's what we like, isn't it, as petrolheads? We want something that's more interesting. You want something to talk about over a pint at the pub, don't you? This is far more interesting than a 3 Series, it just is. I know this is a bit of a cliche when talking about cars, but one thing this car offers in bucket loads is character. It's just certainly more interesting than anything else I could think of. As always with these should you buy type review videos, I always try and come up with an answer by the end. So should you buy an MG ZTT V6? Well, for this sort of money, I don't see why not. You see, if you have a look on Facebook Marketplace or eBay or Auto Trader, you can pick up cheap examples for about £1,500. For one like this is quite a nice example actually that's been looked after properly. That'll set you back double that, but still it is an awful lot of car for £3,000. Is it fast? Not really. It's kind of fast enough. It's alright. Is it practical? Yes, definitely. Is it good value for money? Well, yeah, I think so. Is it interesting? Yes, it certainly is. Most importantly though, it's just got charm and personality and character. And I drive so many new cars these days that just lack that completely. So many new cars these days, especially EVs, they just feel like an appliance. They just feel like a white good. Whereas this ZTT V6 feels refreshingly old-fashioned, and I like that. This car's reminded me that cars from the noughties are my favourite. They're modern enough that you can use them on a daily basis and they're not a chore, but they're also not too modern that they're loaded with silly, intrusive tech. That's why, in my opinion, cars from 2002 to 2012 are just the best. So that, ladies and gents, is the MG ZTT V6. I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and TikTok. I'll leave the links below. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Cheers, guys.